Thank you, everyone, for attending today. I'm Scott Jorgens. We'll turn off the webcam shortly just to make your screens larger. We're here to talk about AP and PO and expense management automation. It's an all-in-one tool and approach by Beanworks, and we're really excited. This is really going to shake up the industry, and of course, our efforts at Endeavour and our GP Support North team are to add value to our clients, help you guys get more out of your systems, help you guys really improve your business operations, leveraging your investment in Microsoft Dynamics. Let me turn off my screen and next slide. There we go. Now we got larger. You're welcome. So, agenda. We're talking to Dynamics GP and Dynamics 365 Business Central clients as our friends at Beanworks have an amazing tool set that's going to help integrate to GP and Business Central. Our agenda, we're going to provide an intro to Beanworks and why we at Endeavour are really excited with their offerings. We'll introduce Brad from Beanworks, who will take you through an overview and great storyline, highly engaging, and then in with a demo. Then we'll come back and we're going to talk about the confidential pricing, and we have a special offer. So please stay to the end. Also note the pricing is going to be excluded from the recording. So take some notes if you so please. Otherwise, obviously, Endeavour is going to be here to talk to you after the fact. So, in our opinion, and this is from us at Endeavour, for PO, AP, expense automation, we've been doing webinars and have ISV and third-party partners over the last number of years, each with different point solutions. Sometimes, on a rare occasion, we'll have AP and expense, but very infrequently do they have all three with automated matching between PO and AP and common workflows for approvals and payments, etc. So 1, 2, 3, 1, Beanworks does have a proven history. They worked with Sage, but that did let them really mature their product. They've connected to Dynamics GP. The integration to Business Central is ready. It's going to be launched this summer. Just running through some last-minute hoops with Microsoft for the certification processes. Beanworks is owned by Quadient, very large, somewhat deep pockets, and their goal is they want to expand across North America and not picking up an extra 10 or 100 customers. They're thinking thousands of customers per year and a lot of rapid growth. How does that work? Cloud subscriptions. Subscriptions make for very attractive pricing. They've dialed it in for low implementation costs, easy training costs, and really it's becoming a great fit for our small and mid-size GP clients. We'll get into pricing as we move on to the next slide and later on. So first off, fixed price implementations, integration to Dynamics GP. What we see here is there's obviously GP screen. There's a tool set that sits on your GP server and does the synchronization back and forth between GP and Beanworks. And then in the Beanworks portal side, they have a Smart Sync app, and that's where we can map to different entities, different companies, control how pieces are moving back and forth. It's all tried and true, very similar to what we find with a lot of other ISVs that are moving or creating that bridge between GP and your on-premise system, whether it's in cloud or in your servers, and with their cloud-based applications. It's going to be fixed pricing, integration, training, all those components, and we'll talk about pricing later. What we have here is a screenshot that we posted in the original webinar invite, and it shows the 4 modules. We're going to be looking at the first 3 out of the 4, but know that there are 4 components. Invoices, which is your AP automation, purchase orders, which is purchase requisitions and POs, and expense automation, which is basically replacing your classic I'm sending an Excel sheet type approach. They also have payments, and all the components together in a single interface. And so we get efficiencies in the implementation, in the integration, user training, commonality across all the components. And then the cool stuff where purchase orders are talking and automatically matching to invoices because it's through the same sort of system. With that said, we'll move on to the next slide. I have, I think this is my last slide before I put it over to Brad. Not only do we like it, there's a lot of clients and industry players that really have awarded Beanworks and provided a lot of great feedback based on user reviews, ease of use, impact to clients. And so we're always happy to see those components, as well as obviously the deeper dives and reviews that Endeavour has done internally. So Brad, why don't I turn it over to you? You can introduce yourself, and I'll keep an eye out for any questions.
Sounds good. I was the magic behind the clicking of the slides there, so I tried my best there, Scott. Hopefully I didn't screw you up too much. Sounded so far sounds pretty good. This is my beautiful face that my mother loves over there on the left. So I'll be walking you through the webinar today. So yeah, account executive is a fancy way to say the guy who is going to be walking you through the demo. So by no means am I an accountant or finance professional myself, even though I have dabbled across my short career so far. But yeah, no, I get to talk to people all day, every day about how we can make their lives easier in finance, of course. So especially nowadays with Microsoft Dynamics GP, and of course, like Scott was saying, coming up this summer, Business Central, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, let's jump on into it. Now, whole idea here, just to outline it before we do get into the actual demo itself, is we typically talk with people to really uncover, common practices that across many folks that I talk to that cause friction in really the 4 accounts payable workflows. So first, we will quickly review why do finance teams need more tools, then go into those 4 key modules of AP, purchase orders, invoices, payments, and those expenses, credit card receipts, all that fun stuff. And then, yeah, we're going to explain how you can, of course, make those easier by adopting automated and non-automated solutions. So that way, towards the end, of course, we'll give you a sneak peek into the Beanworks AP automation platform for Microsoft Dynamics and Business Central to come. So please feel free, though, ask as many questions as you like in the questions box. So don't stick it in the chat, the actual questions box there, and we'll make sure to, between myself and Scott, hopefully get to all your questions today. So let's jump on into it. All right, first of all, so why do finance teams even need more tools? So ask any AP employee to pick the most frustrating part of their role, and I guarantee you they're gonna say all that manual process, all that paper, all that boring stuff that I probably didn't go to school to do. Let's get rid of all of that. So manual accounting, of course, is time consuming. It can be risky. We're humans at the end of the day. If we get bored and we're sitting there manually typing things, there's probably more room for error. And of course, more time is just more expensive. So in fact, in a survey of 1,100 finance professionals worldwide, you can see there on the screen, 41% blamed manual data inputting for inaccurate financials. So let's see what's going on there. So a common complaint, of course, is that the purchase requisition, AP, and expense management process are paper-based, and with that, inefficient. So from the early days, accounting departments have been running processes manually. Of course, we didn't have the tools back then to speed it up and make it better. So in fact, 86% of small, medium-sized enterprises are still actually manually entering invoices, hence why I have a job. So works great for me, but I want to make your lives better. So that's the whole idea. So this brings the challenge of errors, of course. So research says that 88% of spreadsheets contain inaccuracies. Often these can be tracked or traced back to mistakes done by an employee that is already overloaded with their day-to-day tasks, of course. But overall, with too much paper and manual work involved, 71% of organizations are going to, of course, claim manual data entry and those inefficient processes are their top pain point and resulting in over 20 days to process an invoice. Almost 3 weeks just for one invoice to get it through the system. It's crazy. Now, the next challenge, of course, is cost. If you're in finance, hopefully you are concerned about cost. Otherwise, you might be in the wrong industry or the wrong job. This is now your sign to get a different position. So when considering labor alone, if you do have one finance clerk processing invoices full-time, on average, we see it's, of course, 20 bucks per hour or so. Approximately, that works out to be 3,440 bucks per month. Around, on average, 300 to 400 invoices monthly would cost your business about $9 to $12 per invoice. That's all that extra money just to process an invoice that you're already paying, money going out the door. So now this AP clerk, of course, could be spending their time on more valuable work rather than essentially copy and pasting information off an invoice into a financial system. All right, so now we all know that accountants are overworked. I'm not saying you guys aren't. Of course, we're all busy here day to day. So between crunching numbers, sending out reports, sending approval reminders, data entry, and all the other tedious tasks that come with your day to day, you folks are also responsible for accurate processing and reporting on the financials. So one study claims that 1 in 10 accountants work 7 days a week. That is crazy. We want to give you your Saturday and Sunday back. You deserve to have a weekend like the rest of us lazy people in the world. I'm calling myself lazy, of course. So 34% consider quitting once per week. I would probably argue that might be higher. So, of course, with workload pressure, it becomes those constant thoughts every morning. Do I really want to be doing this anymore? So we don't want you to have to quit your job. We want you to enjoy your life and get your weekends back. So 47% of accountants or finance teams end up taking work home with them, especially nowadays with our laptops and our phones on us constantly. I'm sure that's probably even more as well. I know it has been for me, just constantly connected. Now, if employers want a happy, healthy workforce, they need to put measures in place, of course, to help staff regain control of that, that buzzword we love, that, work-life balance, of course. So a big challenge for accounting teams is that manual systems lack control and visibility. Where the heck is everything? I'm not too sure. It could be sitting on someone's desk, or maybe sitting in someone's email inbox. So here's a quick example of a $13,000 plus, of course, employee expense fraud that went on for 21 years at Providence Water Supply in the US. Rebecca, a purchasing supervisor, used the company card to buy personal items. Then she may have brought on her own downfall when she told a supervisor that she'd made a personal purchase of $155 on the company card. And then Rebecca paid back the money, but then officials opened the audit anyways. And then they, of course, once they start digging, they find everything. So a bunch of other fraudulent transactions as well were buried in the company. Now, finance solutions, of course, contribute to growth, especially in the remote work era nowadays. So that 360-degree dedicated automation platform, of course, such as Beanworks, these systems have all of the actual financial workflows in one place. So no longer do you have to go buy 4 different tools to get what you need. You can just go have the one. So of course, that's going to ensure that all the necessary information is accurate and available in real time and in one place. So when you are out there searching for that comprehensive kind of all-in-one solution of PO to AP, expense payment automation software, really look for a solution that ties in all the functions of one central platform. So of course the PO's there, that automatic matching that Scott was saying, I'll show you that in a little bit, to the invoice, and then the payments, and of course the expenses as well. So that's how we do it at Beanworks, of course, for the automation for Microsoft Dynamics, and again, the Business Central to come shortly. So now all AP process And data are stored in one system. You don't have to worry about training people on 2 or 3 different tools. So this means no more loose spreadsheets and random software shared by individual departments. So that way you have more visibility into actual a tool and that information. And then it's going to flow seamlessly across all of the workflows. So right back into your actual financial system. That's the key, of course. So when you're looking for a tool, it can be the shiniest AP tool out there, but if it doesn't speak back to your financial system, then what's the point of even using it? So let's quickly look at each piece here of the workflow. So moving on from the tools, of course, let's get into the Beanworks module for Microsoft Dynamics, the POs. So now some of the biggest concerns within purchase orders have been around that manual heavy procurement process. So number one, the problem is that most businesses rely on an informal requisition process where employees will create their own shortcuts or systems, making it hard for accounting teams to track spend. Some businesses don't even have a requisition process to really lead on. It's more of just the invoice showed up on the desk and just, hey, pay this, or a quick email or phone call that's informal and, hey, can I buy this? Yep, good to go. Now your accounting team is in the dark of all these purchases before it even, again, before it shows up and you have to just pay it. So of course that leads to the lack of visibility into information such as open purchase orders. So not having that information and not really knowing what's open, what's left to go. How do you know what your forecasted spend will be? Now, number 3, of course, unapproved purchases, which can disrupt your tasks like the never-ending month-end close or the audit that's typically always coming up at the perfect time. So without that formal requisition process, employees, they're going to procure goods and services and they're not going to get it approved. And I know us sales guys, we're the worst for it. We just go out and swipe the card and hope for the best and try to get reimbursed for it. All right, so how do we fix it without using automation software? Now, number 1, first of all, it is crucial to establish that formal requisition process with PO forms. So this means that the purchasing staff must issue a purchase order for every purchase that's made by the company. So what that could look like is as simple as an Excel sheet, a Word document, paper form, to at least give you something. Now, once that formal requisition process has been laid out, you can match invoices to POs as they come in. Lastly, you can actually create that approval network to manage that department spend. So the process should require employees to complete that purchase requisition form, which then has to be approved by their department manager. And then by doing so, the actual department manager is taking responsibility for each purchase and understands that, okay, the cost of this purchase now is going to be charged against my actual budget. So now you're actually having that, responsibility, we'll call it, built into your process of each department and who is responsible for now that spend. So if you wanted to take this a bit further, you would also consider, of course, an automated requisition process. So some of the benefits to automating that would include customized purchasing and spending limits. So that ensures that the spend now is within policy. You don't have to think about it. Companies can create a formal purchasing process that controls who's able to buy, what and how much money can they actually spend. So they can set those spend limits based on, say, department or project or maybe a vendor, or set manager budgets to control those purchases or unapproved purchases. So in addition, that's going to eliminate double data entries. So when a PO comes in, it automatically matches to the invoice. You don't have to re-enter all that information again onto the invoice since you've already done on the PO. Last but not least, you can preview the budget and forecast through a central dashboard. and measure how this area, along with payments, invoices, and expenses, of course, are contributing to your overall financial growth.
Thank you, Brad. And that replaces a good chunk of the purchase requisition processes that people will be using inside of BC or GP. The nice thing is it also shows the budgets available by department. If you have, depending on the setup we use and the approvals that we go through those processes.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. And I'll walk through that in a little bit here too. Sweet. Moving on to the invoice. So pandemic, of course, brought about a pretty rapid switch to everyone remote work and figure out Zoom. And I think we're still trying to figure out Zoom these days. But manual processes, of course, it's going to hinder the staff's ability to function while being fully remote. Research showed, of course, that finance teams had to visit the office during the pandemic to complete those tasks like obtaining invoices, pulling paper files. I even spoke to a doctor who had to drive 2-3 hours a day just to get invoices approved and whatnot. So you can imagine a doctor, I'm sure, has better ways to spend their time. Now, business experiencing slow invoice processing are often stuck with the following. Manual data entry and those errors, of course, arising out of the needs to update that same data in multiple systems. The usage of informal approval channels, so such as email back and forth, paper copies on people's desks and signing off for stamps. It's of course a major contributor to slow invoice processing cycles. It gets stuck on someone's desk or email, and we're all busy, so yeah, we'll get around to it. And then of course, that's where we were talking about earlier. It probably takes on average 20 days to actually get an invoice fully processed. So with manual intervention involved in every step, it gets difficult to spot duplicate invoices. So one report found that 63% of businesses had received duplicate invoices, and then of which 33% of those had actually paid them. So now you're calling up your vendor trying to get your money back, and we all know vendors, they don't mind when you double pay them. They only care if you haven't paid them. So they'll take their sweet time if you've accidentally double paid. Now, how to fix the challenges, of course, in the invoice processing. To better manage that manual data entry and reduce those errors, you can install OCR technology, which is really a fancy way to say a copy and paste tool that reads your invoice for you and pulls all the information for you. Now, solutions that target document management can help you speed up the invoice approvals as well. So if your goal is to really shift away from those paper-based systems, then you could turn to a tool like Paper Save. So this tool helps accounting teams reduce their reliance on paper, filing, and cabinets. So it's a good way to get you, a step in the right direction, as well as SharePoint, DocLink. Those are also great tools to start getting you out of the paper filing cabinets, those banker boxes. So those systems, of course, are supporting different areas of the invoice processing. However, an AP automation software will target all the challenges through one central platform, not just little pieces of it. So AP automation uses AI-powered data capture. Again, really fancy way to say we just have a lot of smart engineers on our team, so that way you don't have to touch your invoice and we code it for you to pull in all the details like the amounts, the due dates, the invoice date, vendor name, all that fun stuff, quantities. So it's automatically going to flag the duplicate invoices if you were to receive them, of course, in the system. So now you don't have to worry about tracking them manually. And then automated platforms, of course, also come with that internal approval system. So that's going to allow you to track the entire approval chain in real time, from when it was sent for approval, how long has it stayed in approver's inbox for, some notifications there and some reminders as well that are built in, and all the backup data like a quote, a lease, a contract can all be attached to the invoice as well. And that date and time, of course, when the approver actually gave it the thumbs up, so that way when the auditor comes, it's all there for you in one spot. So, a little quick customer story here. So, in the case of a golf club, I'm gonna absolutely butcher this name, Minikata Club, based in Minnesota. They were experiencing interruptions in completing those routine AP tasks. So everything was done manually. They're requiring hours of data entry, leading to huge stacks of paperwork, and of course, filing cabinets. It's just hard to keep track of. So 15 people were approving invoices every month. So you can imagine with 15 people, there were delays. This, of course, made it difficult to catch duplicates between all those stacks of paper. And a big issue was that all financial documents that have sensitive information were on paper, and it's actually stored in a physical facility. So if someone wanted to, I'm sure they could just roll up and take a sneak peek if they really needed to. So what was critical for, again, I'm going to butcher the name here. We couldn't have picked an easier customer name to explain. Minikata, I'm hoping I say that right. Club's AP's team was taking back some control over their financial processes. So this, of course, tackling those issues such as the duplicate invoice. So with AP automation, the golf club, of course, was able to pick up on a couple of things that maybe would have slipped through the cracks if they hadn't. So they're able to actually spot a $10,000, on average amount in overpayments, which include, of course, credits and duplicate payments. So by using Beanworks, managers can now use the web and the mobile app off their phone to just approve documents wherever they are on the go, sitting in an airport. All right, so that was invoices. Let's jump into expenses. So this is all about those credit card receipts, expense policies. What else? Expense reimbursements, of course, paying off the company credit card, all kind of within that realm. So, of course, we're probably tired of talking about it now, but pandemic, it changed everything. But of course, you got to look at the positive. I think there's a lot of good change as well. So being able to work remote is a great benefit that it really kind of sped up, I think, for every company out there across many different industries. So for expenses, the issue with the traditional way of managing expenses and reimbursing employees is that it's time consuming. So sifting through stacks of paper receipts, coffee stain receipts, verifying the details, it takes up a lot of valuable time each month. Moreover, filing and processing receipts involve too many steps like printing the receipt, scanning, coding it. It's why 45% of CFOs say minimizing that administrative burden and expense processing is actually their number one priority. So the next challenge is reducing the risk of expense abuse. So last year, 62% of businesses actually encountered those out of policy expenses. So with so many intricate kind of steps there involved in manually managing it, it becomes really hard to actually maintain the accuracy, which then of course, if you can't maintain accuracy, it's going to lead to errors. So according to the Global Business Travel Association, on average, 1 in 5 expense reports have errors on them. And yes, salespeople are the worst. I know it. We try to expense everything. So how can we fix this? So first, you can start by managing expenses through a document management software. So this type of software, it'll let you upload documents such as receipts and maybe have some basic approval workflows. So again, step in the right direction. Second, document an expense policy. Maybe you don't have one. Maybe start coming up with one and try to consider some different kind of policies around expenses. So that way it fits with both, that hybrid work setting of remote and in office, and then get employees to actually sign off on it. So you could design maybe a questionnaire based on the policy to ensure all employees understand it. So then finally, number 3, you can digitize receipts immediately. So after receiving them, for secure access. So that way you don't have to worry about getting them damaged or misplaced or lost entirely at a later time. So maybe come up with a rule where someone has to take a picture and email it over immediately. So that way now you have it kind of digitally stored somewhere. Of course, that was a step in the right direction, or you can, go all the way with it. So automated expense management will give your business the tools to really dynamically engage with employees. So it's going to actually accelerate those expense management and reimbursements by allowing employees to submit expense reports through their phone even to get reimbursed. So once approved by the manager, the AP team can now confidently just reimburse that employee electronically. You could also flag expenses that exceed your set limits. So that can be customized, of course, based on factors such as, again, department, budget, role. That way it gives you greater control and visibility over what your employees are spending. Now, with automated expenses, you can also eliminate the double data entries. So when you actually map expense categories, so I can quickly show that today as well, directly to your already existing expense or GL codes in your financial system, that's going to save your accounting team time and resources, so they don't have to do it all over again. So there's a quick little quote there from one of our customers, of course. So Vice President over at DreamPack, Walid Gamme. It's a beverage manufacturer, of course. So then they were starting to use some expense automation. So as you can see, the quote on the screen there, won't have to read through all of it for you, but essentially by employees being able to snap pictures of receipts and just get it through the mobile app, the approver quickly gets that notification, signs off on it, away they go. And now it's all in one place. They don't have to worry about receipts being missing. It's just now in one system for them. All righty. So last but not least here, payments real quick. Let's jump into that payments workflow. So again, payments significantly affected by the pandemic, even more so, especially if you're still paper checks, people having to come into the office, sign off on checks and send them out in the mail. So many organizations are actually still experiencing a lot of those challenges, really low cash flow economy right now. The supply chains are all still disrupted and backlogged. So a lot of change in vendor payment preferences as well. Vendors want to get paid faster, of course, don't we all? So this really put a lot of a challenge on a lot of finance teams out there. So recent study, State of AP, 600 finance professionals across North America. We found 3 areas within payments that were severely impacted. So let's take a look at what that was. The first challenge, and perhaps one of the kind of biggest challenges that most probably accounting teams or finance teams can relate to, is late payments and those late payment fees. So on average, businesses in North America took as long as 58 days to actually pay vendors and suppliers in the first quarter of 2021, which was up 5.5% from the first quarter in 2020. So where the average payment period was 55 days. So still 55 days is a lot longer than your average, probably net 30 days is what we're looking for. So it's really interesting to see how that number might change this year as well. Now, the next concern would be remote access to payments-based processes. So 57% of those 600 businesses were unable to make payments while working remotely last year. So again, it's probably safe to assume it's based on that traditional paper-based process. So having to literally go into the office, sign off on checks and send them out. Now, while keeping that financial engine running, the accounting teams also have to be aware of those more and more sophisticated scams targeting companies of all sizes. So, we see a flurry of those unusual financial transactions, expedited orders, change of banking information, new payment methods, all kind of during this time of uncertainty. So, an urgent request that might have raised eyebrows in the past, it's now maybe not so alarming during a pandemic. Maybe your CEO does want you to go and, buy thousands of dollars of gift cards on Amazon or something like that to send over to them. So it makes it really hard to actually identify those signs of fraud. So even the most experienced teams, of course, can run into these roadblocks. So how do we actually make sure that this doesn't happen, with your organization? So you're probably getting the hang of it now. How do we fix it without automation? And then how can we fix it, of course, with automation? So you got to separate the approval chain for invoices and payments. By separating those roles for approvals and payments, you can reduce the chances for funds to be rerouted or otherwise misappropriated. So not being able to approve an invoice and approve the payment as well. You can imagine if I was the person who entered in my own invoices and I approved my own payments, I could probably get away with a couple of things if I was grumpy one day or if I didn't want to, stay with the company. Now, if late or missed payments are your primary area of concern, it might be beneficial to explore a third-party payment solution, such as a company called Invoice Pay. So they track, update, maintain payment data for for the customer suppliers, and they'll actually take on 100% liability for payments. So similar to like a credit card company, if anything were to ever happen, it's on them. They'll figure it out, and then your money's safe. Next, you could also start using a bank change form to actually initiate changes in vendor banking details. So when a vendor asks for their bank details to be changed, you should always ask, 2 or 3 questions to confirm the legitimacy of it. And then that way, something like their last payment date or last invoice amount. So that way, it's legit. And then of course, last but not least, train your staff on how to identify signs of fraud. So for instance, maybe train them on how to detect those phishing emails or invoices that may not have vendor information, such as like an address or phone number. So you can use kind of like a free email provider, like Gmail or Outlook, keep an eye on those kind of things where, hey, that's not actually a business email, this looks a little sketchy. So those are all kind of some good changes that you can make to implement and get you in the right direction. Now, how are you going to do it with automation? So automated payments can actually simplify a bulk of your payment-based worries. So first and foremost, you can pay your vendors in their actual preferred, method of payment. So whether that's, EFT in Canada, credit cards, or in the States, it's ACH or, wires, we can do it all except Bitcoin. Now you can automatically route payments to approvers, and then you just leave the software to do the chasing for reminders and follow-ups on that. Now, how do you help combat the risk of fraud? So solutions like Beanworks AP, of course, you have like an approval matrix, so that way you can customize it. So maybe a certain manager can approve up to a certain dollar amount, and then it goes off to someone else, department, city, vendor, etc., location. You can have those type of rules set up. All right, so we look like we're maybe 22 minutes or so. So maybe I'll jump into the demo, give you a sneak peek, and then we'll pass it back over to Scott for that pricing and some questions as well. Let me just open up my demo screen here real quick.
Sounds great. I do want to make sure we have time to look at the pricing. So let's see if we can look at this 15 minutes kind of thing.
Yeah, sounds good. I will keep an eye on the clock here.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome. No worries at all. So hopefully everyone see my screen here. It should say invoices in progress up at the top. So I'll just give you a quick kind of layout of what we're looking at here before I click around too much. So on the left-hand side, we have our modules. So expenses, that's like your credit card receipts, employee reimbursements, company credit cards, purchase orders, invoices, and payments. So I'll really focus on kind of these top 3 modules, for today. And then of course, if there's any time you wanted a deeper dive into a demo, just give us a call or an email and we'll have someone walk you through it, no problem. So now, in terms of the layout of what we're looking at here, the workflow of the invoice is up at the top here. So whether that's paper in the short term, ideally email, it comes left to right here in the workflow. So gets into the tool, gets routed for approval, back into your Dynamics GP or Business Central, and then archived is like your digital filing cabinet. Down here's your list of invoices that come in, again, ideally from email, and they start getting coded for you right away. And then on the left-hand side here, you have your organizational tree. So whether you have, one entity would be one black node here, or you have, 20, 30, 100 entities, you can have it all on one screen. And we are going to actually plug into your financial system to mirror that organizational tree the same way you'd like it to. So then it's as easy as just kind of clicking into a bubble. I want to see this company, maybe this location. And if you break it out into departments, perhaps, hey, I only want to see sales invoices. That's what you would do here on this side of the screen. You can have unlimited users in our tool, so you don't have to worry about adding in 1 or 2 people to approve an invoice. Your audit trail can be in check. You don't have to stress about it, and it's not going to change anything from a financial standpoint either. With that being said, maybe those 100 people in the tool, or maybe those 10 people in the tool, they don't need to have access to the whole system. They don't need to see other people's invoices. So a couple of ways that our customers like to set up some permissions are, common one is by maybe approvers. They only have access to the approvals tab. That way they come in, they only approve their own invoices. They don't need to see everyone else's, and then away they go. Of course, you folks in finance, you'd have God mode or super user mode. You'd be able to see everything in the system. Whereas maybe someone in purchasing, maybe you give them access to only the purchase order module, or someone who wants to submit an expense, maybe they only have the expense module. So there's a couple different ways there that we're pretty flexible in hopefully finding the right kind of permission set that you guys need. So that is the overview, or kind of the nitty gritty there of what we're looking at. All the other modules here, the exact same experience as the invoice module. We did that on purpose, of course, so that way, only thing that changes is the color. Once you figure out one module, you'll be able to pick up the rest of them pretty easy. So let's kick it off in POs real quick. So it all begins in the Create tab. So this is that purchase requisition process we were talking about. Maybe that doesn't exist for you right now, or maybe that is in Word or Excel. So someone would be able to come in here. If you do have several different companies, they would be able to pick their company, fill in now their details, vendor, delivery date, totals, taxes, quantities, everything will be pulled down here from your GP, all those lists that you may need. That person can now submit the purchase request for approval, where in the back end of the tool, I won't go into it today, but you can set up those different rules. Maybe that person's a part of a certain department. It needs to go to their department manager first, and then it goes off to finance. So that way you have visibility on what's about to come through the door. So once that person clicks the button submit for approval, the system will know based on the criteria that they filled out, goes off to that proper person for approval, and it'll end up in that approver's queue like here. So now that approver will get a ping to their phone or an email notification that'll take them right into their approver queue here. They can quickly review the information from this screen and say, yep, they all look good, or reject them, or they'll actually jump into the pending purchase order. You can customize this template if you like, make it pretty with your own logo, and then they can come in, see any comments or approval history, maybe from someone before them, just give it a simple thumbs up or thumbs down. Assuming that it gets a thumbs up, it's going to go onto the committed tab, the next step of the workflow. If they reject it, mandatory for someone to leave a comment. That way everyone knows exactly why is this getting rejected. So assuming you got that thumbs up, it goes into the committed tab here. This is really that forecasting or budget dashboard. So these are now all of your open POs in one screen. And you can see the totals here, and then the drawn and remaining will fluctuate automatically as our tool will automatically match invoices against those open POs, which I'll show you in the invoice module. So the two ways people use us for POs are, I'm buying this $38,000 item. I'm waiting for this one invoice to come in and draw against it. Or you can have actually like an open budget or, a blanket PO in our tool, such as, this one here. I got $3,600. I'm applying this $1,300 invoice against it. Okay, now I have, $2,200 and change left on the actual budget. So that is the two ways, again, that people use us for POs. This is a really quick dashboard to see, okay, what's my total outstanding spend? Now you can have visibility on what's about to hit your desk before it actually shows up. This is handy too, this screen. Maybe a manager wants to log in themselves and see what's left on their own budget. Again, we can set up those restrictions so that way they are only seeing their own. So pretty easy to do. And then all that's left is the close tab here. So this is now all POs that have been closed out. And this is basically now your digital filing cabinet here, where you can actually organize it with your little digital folders over on the left. So that is purchase orders. Again, feel free to fire away questions here in the questions box as we're going through, and hopefully we can get to most of them then.
You got it?
Now what's that, sir?
You got it. Well, I got you covered.
Got me covered. Cool. All right. Invoices. Invoice is going to come in, ideally from an email. It's all into one central spot now. You don't have to worry about it sitting at someone's desk or an email inbox. Invoice is going to be here for you. If you do need to get a paper copy in, that'll be the Create tab. So you can just upload it into a regular, cheap scanner, get it into the tool. It'll show up a little something like this. So you can actually split out the batch of papers and then drag and drop them if they do have multiple pages. And you can save your paper copies to start getting coded as well. Now that it's actually in the tool, you can jump into an invoice. You're going to have the image of the invoice here. Again, if you do have a purchase order, it'll be side by side. The information will all get coded for you. So entity, vendor, invoice number, PO match, dates, due dates, totals, and taxes, that'll all be coded for you. Now, there's a few ways our tool will actually remember how to code the invoice for you. So one being reoccurring invoices. It's going to say, hey, I recognize this vendor before. I'm going to now put it to that GL account that I've used previously. The second way, if you are using a lot of POs, our tool will actually pull the information off the purchase order for you, match it against it like we saw over here with the number, and then put the information on the invoice below. So that way it eliminates that double data entry that you might be doing. Last but not least, where we are a little bit fancier than other AP tools out there, we have something called line item capture. So what that does, it actually reads the line items on the invoice below and recognizes the words. So say, for example, this one says, monthly auditing. It remembers how you've actually coded that to the GL account, and then we'll put it below to the proper account for you. Now, once that invoice is all coded, your AP person would then click the button Submit for approval. Very similar to that purchase order module, it'll route to the proper person for approval based on, dollar thresholds, department, maybe a certain type of GL account needs to go to a certain person or project. Goes off for approval. That approver can then approve, reject all in one screen here, just quickly batch approve, or they'd be able to actually jump into an invoice, see the invoice, if there was a PO, see the PO, and then any comments, approval history on the left-hand side here, and then just a thumbs up, thumbs down. Again, they can do this off their phone, and it'll look very much the same that we're looking at today. Once that thumbs up is good to go, it's going to now sync back into your GP or Business Central. So you would select all the bills, you'd go Actions, Data. Once you click Data, it will sync back into your GP or your Business Central or financial system, and it'll show, excuse me, it'll show up the exact same way as if you were to manually type in your bill. Nothing will change. So it'll go to all the correct GL accounts and everything since you verified it, and nothing will sync back into your financial system unless it's gone through that actual approval workflow. Last but not least, we do the automatic filing for you. So you don't have to worry about putting it into a filing cabinet and organizing it or scanning it and uploading it into a shared drive. That's going to be done for you. All of your invoices are going to be here, and then on the left-hand side, you can organize it. Typically, what's common is by vendor, so you can just have alphabetical order by vendor on the left-hand side. That is the invoice module in a very, fast kind of sneak peek version. Last but not least, we'll jump into expenses real quick, and then hopefully we still have 5 or 10 minutes here for some questions afterwards. So just get some water in me here so my throat doesn't give out on me. So much talking.
Perfect. Thanks, Brad. Just continuing on with the purchase, the AP automation. You were talking about the line item capture. That's essentially OCR plus plus. So OCR is optical character recognition when invoices get scanned either for paper or it's a drag and drop because you received a PDF in an email. Those get read by the system. There's machine learning that learns better and does it faster. And then Beanworks, unlike some others, also has a behind the scenes call center that will manually, anything that doesn't go through perfectly, will manually have a human look at it and type in those pieces, and that greatly reduces the cost of implementation as well as the speed of getting everything up and running nicely, because you don't have to manually do the system training. It all happens on your behalf by Beanworks, and is a fantastic approach that really they learned from the smaller side of the small business that there's so much ad hoc processing that happens that uh, this approach really makes everyone's lives that much easier and is well worth the effort and cost.
Yeah, some tools out there are used to, I guess, yeah, you'd have to tell it like top left corner is the vendor, top right corner is the invoice number. With us, you don't have to worry about any of that. It just learns on its own. And then, yeah, we do have that backup, even kind of triple check, verification team that'll make sure that that's why we can tell people, this tool is 99% accurate, with confidence. So yeah, we can definitely walk you through that in more of a demo, if you were, curious. So then last but not least here for today, the expense module, you would have all of your receipts here in one screen. And then you can actually create now digital expense reports. So you'll see the top here, receipts and reports. The way you would get it into the tool, my favorite way is just off my phone. So that way, when I actually go to the store and I buy something, I just take a picture of the receipt. So the receipt will be here on the right-hand side. My company, if there's several different ones, I can be, set up based by a user. So if I belong to a certain entity, it'll be there. I would just create, my new expense report, or I can add a receipt to an existing that's open report. And then, let's just say we went to Canadian Tire. Maybe I have my totals, my taxes columns here, and then my categories will actually be below for me to pick. So now this is all customized. Like, you guys can make as many categories as you like. So now, hopefully when I go and say like I get gas, I can figure out that I need to pick the fuel category. But the nice thing is that behind the scenes, this is now mapped to that GL account that you'll have in your financial system. So now to actually go to that proper expense account, and the AP team doesn't have to worry about putting their time into coding it. And the nice thing is too, you can pick and choose which users have access to certain categories. So if you know that guy in sales or girl in sales, hey, you usually, you don't buy, I don't know, equipment. They don't have access to actually code any of their expenses to equipment. So you can pick and choose how you want people to be able to expense their items. Assuming now that the receipt, of course, image is going to be right here on the side, you would create that receipt and it's going to add it to your report. So once we jump into my April expense report, throughout the month now I can add on more receipts to the report. And then I would submit my expense report to now go off to my manager for approval. And then, of course, off to AP to process it and maybe reimburse me or pay off that company credit card. So the key two differences for expense reports with us typically is the vendor. So on this screen here, it's all blank, but it would be pictures of those receipts on the report. All the different details of the receipts will be below here. The two key differences would typically be the vendor. If it's an employee reimbursement, the vendor is probably the employee's name. So it'd be like Brad as the vendor set up in the financial system. And then you can actually reimburse them out of the payments module. Or if it's a company credit card, what I've seen is maybe it's like Amex or MasterCard as the vendor set up in your financial system. And now this expense report will post back into your GP or Business Central. And then you're done. You're good to go. You just pay off your credit card statement the same way you would today. Nothing else would change. And I think that pretty much covers it. Scott, was there anything else you want me to kind of poke around in here, or pass it back over to you for some pricing?
Yeah, I think that's good. I'll pull up the PowerPoint back up, and there's a few questions that we'll get to at the end. I do want to make sure we focus on finishing some on time in case anyone has a hard stop at the top of the hour. So, Brad, thank you. That was a great introductory showcase. And for those that, nope, next slide. We have.
Okay, I was like, whoop, I missed I ruined the surprise.
Nope. For those that want a deeper dive and deeper questions, we have a special offer that we worked out with Beanworks, a $50 Amazon gift card. There's some terms and conditions that are on this website. We'll send out this link, or you can copy it down now. And it's a little treat for you're back to the office. Buy some extra coffee pods, fancy coffee, maybe new mugs, maybe a pet cactus for the office. There's tons of things you can buy on Amazon and share with your team. And that's for those that complete an additional follow-up discussion and demo of Beanworks. There's so much awesome stuff to see within it. Next slide. So pricing. This part's going to be taken off the recording, so come and take some notes. There's a few questions that came through. How does this compare to a Concur? One of the reasons is price. And let's look on that next slide. In contrast to those 25, 5, 20 grand, 15 grand, fixed price implementation, integration, and training from Beanworks in the $5,000 range. Unlike Endeavour, they are not a consulting firm that makes money off of consulting services. They are a software subscription company, and their business model is on the volume of customers that they can bring on and be able to make their income based on the subscriptions or the number of invoices and the payment processing if you guys choose to move down that road. Those that are new to Endeavour have been around for 30 years now. We're actually into year number 33. Microsoft ERP, CRM, and cloud applications across the whole portfolio for the small business and mid-market. And PO automation, you can see on the left, AP and expense automation, budgeting, forecasting, all of the advisory services to help you get more out of your systems. One more slide. Next steps, reach out to Trish, James, or Steve on our team. You can also find us online at www.endeavorsolutions.ca. And Steve's contact information is there, or you can reach out to the Endeavour support desk and we'll be able to connect you. One more slide, please. Just as a recap, we have this special reminder. If you want to see more about Beanworks, reach out to Endeavour. We'll give you this link and you can qualify for this $50 Amazon card, or click on the link and you can reach out to Beanworks directly. They'll let us know that you clicked on the link. As you can see, the link here, partners.beanworks.com/Endeavour April 2022, tags that against Endeavour, and they know that you clicked on the Endeavour link and not someone else's link, and we'll be able to collaborate in your best interests. So with that, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And now let's look at some questions. There's a few that come through. Brad, I believe you had to head off quite shortly. Let me just quickly go through these questions. How do we differ from other stuff? The same as most. There are some, from Endeavour's perspective, there are some applications that do handle extremely complex components. There's a price point that's far higher for those, and so far, very few, if not none, of all of our favorite ISVs do all three components together. Some are coming into that realm, and they're 6 to 12 or 18 months out. Do vendors get to submit a link to submit invoices? No. Vendors don't get to submit it directly. They get to submit it to you. You guys then push the invoices into either into Beanworks manually through your AP department, or there are some generic emails that can be monitored. So you can have sort of like a Beanworks at endeavorsolutions.ca email and be able to use that as a dumping ground and receiving, and then ingest it into the system. Obviously, anything that is PDF and digital first and stays digital is read easier and faster by the line item capture and is a preferred way. Scanning paper invoices also works well, and we can work with you just to make sure it's common sense. Just use a good MFP. and the multifunction printers, multifunction copiers can often scan directly to a specific email, and that would be the email that you use as the dumping ground to ingest the components in Beanworks. And the last question, transferring data from to GP, does a PDF version go into GP as well? No, it does not. The PDF version would stay within Beanworks. There are ways to get a link to that location back into GP. I'm not sure if that's included with the base, but I did see it, and I know it's
Yeah,
something you can do.
as I say, yeah, just to add to that, yeah, it's all included. The link will get attached to the actual invoice entry. So it still completes your goal there of when you're wanting to dig into your entry in GP, you have the link that'll take you directly to the PDF copy, the approval, audit trail, everything that would be within Beanworks. So it's just one click and you're good to go.
Fantastic. So the disk space is not being chewed up on GP. You're just sending a link. And anyone who wants to go to GP cloud hosting, obviously there's storage limitations. So keeping something in an external system safe and secure and included with your fees is fantastic. Last question, and I think we'll finish this up. So in 10 years, do you want to leave Beanworks? Can I get my data back? There was, as you saw in the demo, there was opportunities to download stuff individually. I presume there'd be a bulk download.
Yep.
Can you comment to that, Brad?
Yeah, sure. I was gonna say we don't keep your data hostage by any means. So if we do have to ever have the breakup talk, yeah, you can always download or data dump any of the PDFs or any of the data into a CSV or Excel. But as well, we are compliant with storing all of your information for 7 years. And I always say if you needed to ever extend it longer, we can always cross that bridge when we get to it. So yeah, we're not going to say, hey, you want your invoices back, you got to pay us, a couple extra $1,000. It's all included, and away you go.
Fantastic. I don't see any other questions right now. Let's finish this up. If there are other questions, reply to the calendar invite to the webinar at endeavorsolutions.ca or reach out to support, or even better, follow up when we send out the link to everyone in the recording and attend your Beanworks deeper dive demo session so you can get your $50 gift card to provide some extra love and share some joy to your team as they return back to the office. So with that said, thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate you all for sticking on, and please, spread the word amongst your team and look for the email with the recording. Have a great day, everyone. Bye now.
Awesome. Thank you. See you later.